Here we go. Happy Tuna Tuesdays, everybody. You have stumbled across the First and Tuna podcast. I'm your host, Big Tuna, where we keep stacking coverage of that West Coast football for you Raiders, Rams, Niners, and Chargers fans. Yes, all 12 of you Chargers fans. We're here for you guys. Welcome. Tuesdays is when we go over our version of a recap of each game. But welcome. Happy to be here. I'm so happy. Football's back. Like, how can you not be happy about it? Like, even though my team lost, it's just good to have football back. All the conjecture from the preseason, all the what ifs, what does this team look like? It's nice to see it finally on the field and just know, okay, your team does this well, your team does needs to improve on this. It's just good to be back. My highlight of Sunday morning, or Sunday in general, besides the game, was 10 a.m. Kickoff just happened. Scott Hansen's on TV on Red Zone. He hits those magical words that I just love to hear, that we got our first Octobox of the NFL season. Now, if you're a Red Zone lover like I do, and you love the Octobox and you love Scott Hansen, man, that shit hit like Ozempic in the 2020s. Like, that felt so good to hear. That meant we were officially back. Anyways, speaking of being back, please like, subscribe. If you guys want to keep following along this season, follow along this 2024 ride that we're going to go on together. Make sure you like, subscribe to the channel. Every Tuesday, what we're going to do is do like a recap, kind of like a what we learned, the good versus the bad of each team. If you don't want to hear me drone on and on about it, I'll do my best to keep these videos like under 30, 40 minutes, so that way you're not having to listen to me your entire car ride. Go ahead and go over to the website, www.firstandtuna.com. We'll have a condensed article version of these takeaways. That way it's just all right there for you. Boom, knock it out, read some bullet points. And if you have time, then you check it in the podcast. Thursdays is where we'll do our preview stuff. But that's pretty much it. That's what I got for you guys. I don't want to waste any more time, so let's jump into it. We're going to start with my Los Angeles Rams, though. And I'm going to do my best to pin the top comment as like my timestamp, or just timestamp in general. Like, if you're a Raiders fan and you don't want to listen to the Niners or Rams first, you're more than welcome to jump ahead. Like, I'll have the timestamps as close as possible below, so that way you know where to just listen to your team only. Let's jump into it. Let's start with my Los Angeles Rams. What a game. The fact that they were able to rattle off 17 straight, take the lead with under 4 minutes left, and force that game into overtime when they're just getting absolutely pummeled in the first half with injuries. Lions were just a lot more physical on defense. They were beating up the Rams offense. Couldn't get anything going in the run game. This game looked over like in the third quarter, and all of a sudden Matthew Stafford just takes over. Stat-wise, it's not going to look like he was pressured as much, but in reality, that's kind of that was kind of offset a little bit thanks to Stafford's ability to beat the blitz, take a quick check down, work with Cooper Kupp, target Cooper Kupp like 22 times in the game. That's one thing. But I'm glad this game was on primetime, so everybody got a chance to see like his tier level of being able to operate the offense in the face of adversity. It really goes a testament on how good he is. It's not just the no-look passes. It's not just the quick throws, the timing with Cooper Kupp, things like that. It's everything. It's like when people were talking about Peyton Manning being a coach on the field. Who knows what the play call is coming in for Stafford from McVay, and then all of a sudden he's making changes at the line. He's in control. He's understanding the situations in regards to, hey, there's probably going to be a lot of pressure. I'm not going to have time here. What are my hot reads? How do I get out of this situation to not be a negative play? Him being able to do that consistently throughout the entire game through 51 dropbacks, pretty fucking remarkable. And the way they were able to come back the way that they did. If you watched, he was Matthew Stafford's a magician taking the lead late. Early on, a lot of people were freaking out because, one, they weren't running the ball early. They weren't taking shots down the field. Like, the offense seemed inept, but from the first drive, I can kind of see what they were trying to do. The quick passes were essentially like little chunks here and there, trying to act as a run game. Um, it was sort of an understanding of, hey, this Detroit defense is going to be energetic. They're going to be aggressive. They're very good. It's loud. It just all the momentum. It was the equivalent of, let's just take what we can get. Don't let them get tackles for losses. Just dink and dunk if you have to. Almost like trying to let the hyperactive kid tire himself out. Eventually, they're going to start getting a little bit tired. Even though they didn't see a lot of success in the first half, I think that's what the mentality was. And the fact Stafford was only sacked, I think, twice that game is a big testament to his ability to lead the offense the way that he did. To kind of put it in perspective for you, he got pressured 14 times. It was high, but the percentage was only 27%. So percentage-wise, he was slightly less pressure than even Brock Purdy was in their dominant win. The issue is that Stafford dropped back 51 times because of the narrative of the game. He had to pass it more. Then to kind of put in perspective for that even more, they were I think blitzed only to 25th most out of week 1. The Detroit didn't have to blitz a lot. Their front 3 or 4, depending on their scheme, was getting enough pressure on Stafford. That tells you a little bit of how that defense was rolling against the offense early on. So Stafford's ability to drop back over 50 times, only get sacked twice, despite a rotating door of injuries up front, is downright impressive. I'm taking it as a positive. That's the first good here. As long as Stafford is up and running this offense, you can't ever count them out. Dude's a fucking wizard. My second great point, the young defense flies around underneath Chris Shula. A lot of people, there's a big question coming in, obviously. No Aaron Donald, new DC, really young talent. They sent Ernest Jones out like the week of the game. How is this defense going to do? The linebackers performed better than people thought they would overall. The DBs, I thought, were pretty remarkable. Kobe Durant almost had what may have been a game-sealing interception on Jared Goff, like a spectacular leaping almost grab. Phenomenal. Shout out to Quentin Lake, podcast alum here at First and Tuna. He almost had his first interception. That would have been so sweet to see him make that, but Amon Ra somehow, like, as he's falling, still gets a hand on the ball. If he doesn't, the interception is literally falling in leg slap, and it was damn. Besides that, Jared Verse is as advertised. Dude is fucking strong as hell. He had like 2 tackles on running backs where he just completely demolished them as well. He logged a 26% pressure rate. Byron Young did well as well. I think his pressure rate was only about 10%. He seemed to be having some issues on that right side. I know the right tackle is very good in Detroit, but it looked like he was schemed to have a lot more contain pressures. It didn't look like they had him in too many stunts. They did have him in a stunt early on, which is really fun to see. I'll pop it up on the screen here for you if you're on YouTube. This is something I think they need to do more often. Young was struggling a little bit getting any kind of separation, any kind of pressure off this right tackle here. The Detroit's offensive line is stout as hell. This defensive line was giving him some fits on some plays, though. This one in particular, you got Colby Turner and Byron Young running a stunt here, which is super awesome. Turner is going to pressure this right tackle, forcing the help from the right guard. Young is going to stun around, loop between the guard and center, get the sack here in the first quarter. He's got so much speed that the guard can't recover in time, and the center has no idea what's happening on his right side. So just kind of watch here. You're going to watch Young go on the inside to his right. There's a snap. Boom. Too fast. That right there, I would love to see that happen a little bit more. For those of you listening on Spotify, sorry, but it's a great stunt between Kobe Turner and Byron Young, where he's able to get pressure early on Jared Goff, logs his first sack of the season. My prediction was that they are going to, between Byron Young and Jared Verse, they're going to have 20 sacks between the two of them. Besides that, like I said, defense played great for 60 minutes, which normally would get you a win. When you're playing a team like Detroit, it is going to be a little irregular. They're going to be off schedule with some things. They're going to go for it a little bit more, and they have a dominant run game. We'll get into that with my bad takeaways. But they played great for 60 minutes. The worst play was that Trey White double move he gave up for a touchdown. But, man, they almost had multiple turnovers in this game. Congrats to Chris Shula for a pretty good rookie debut. My third takeaway from this one, positively, McVay he showed he's one of the best coaches in the league. I think this is just kind of like a fan fest that I'm giving to these guys right now. But just imagine you're the head coach. All this hype, all the narratives about going back to Detroit with Stafford, and it's a tough game. You got one of your tougher games of the schedule right in week one. So many unanswered questions with a young team. And then injuries pile up. Injury. Your left tackle's gone. Center's gone. Starting wide receiver's gone. Like, guys are dropping like flies in the first half. You guys aren't doing anything. You throw a pick right before halftime. You're down 17-3. A lot of teams will collapse. A lot of teams do collapse. This team, like that cliche, picked up their bootstraps and fucking went to work. Being able to rattle off 17 straight points in the second half, I almost don't care about the loss. Like, if you're gonna lose, you want to see a team fucking play well. And, like, are you in it till the very end? With your back against the wall like that, you're able to rattle off 17 straight, force overtime against an NFC favorite. Like, in the NFC, you got a lot of people picking Niners, picking Detroit. Some people pick, like, Green Bay. Like, there was always a third team. But they're one of the favorites. Like, they were just in the NFC Championship game a few months ago. On the road, you're able to withstand all this turbulence. That takes a hell of a leader. I got to give a lot of credit to McVay, Shula, the rest of that coaching staff. To just, man, they asked those guys, don't blink, and they ain't fucking blink that whole second half. That was great to see. Excited to see what they do against like teams that aren't the best in the league. And then as this team continues to grow, man, they're gonna rattle off a bunch of wins, I feel like. So it was a great feeling to see your team go through turbulence early and see what they're made of. All right, so let's jump into bad. What are some of the bad things that we learned? Apparently, the Rams practice facility was built on an Indian burial ground because injuries. Like, I don't know what they did to deserve this. I don't know who they pissed off. Yeah, coming into this game, they're already down 2 offensive tackles. Alaric Jackson suspended for 2 games. You have Avila lead the game. He's going to be out for at least a few weeks. Jonah Jackson left the game. I think he may be week to week. Kevin Dotson was in a walking boot after the game, but I guess he's got a sprain. He should be fine. Puka Nacua is going to be out for a few weeks. He's eligible for the short-term IR. I know I'm laughing. It's almost like you have to laugh because you're just like, what the fuck? That doesn't happen every week, and it's not going to keep happening every week. I know a lot of people are freaking out, bringing up the 2022 season, but in reality, this is much different. This team is deeper. The dynamic is different. This team being in this game in overtime is night and day difference from 2022. 2022, that team more than likely packs it in, especially on that second half of the season after those injuries accumulated. This team showed too much heart for that, so this is very different. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Looks like some practice squad moves are going to have to happen. They're going to have to just for depth purposes. They may bring in somebody from the outside to help with the line. Who? I haven't the faintest idea. Anybody that pretends to know, they don't, because they don't. Or the Rams aren't going to tell you. But I just trust the front office to make the best move. They seem to always do that pretty well. Number 2, bad key takeaway, the run defense late in the game. That's tough to ask. Hey, you're going up against a unit that's more than likely going to finish top 5 in a lot of categories, especially in the run. There's a reason why they kept David Montgomery, even if they have Jahmyr Gibbs. It may be a point of emphasis going forward. Like, despite the Lions have one of the best rush attacks in the league, it could be a learning point for Shula. It could be a scheme, could be a substitution issue. Do you bring in a different linebacker? Do you bring in a different package? Were they just straight up gassed because it's week 1? Like, not really sure what the issue was there, but the fact they just boom, boom, boom down the field, ran the ball down their throats in the overtime and just punched it in, kind of deflating right after you have this miraculous, third and fourth quarter to take the lead and then allow them to tie it up, you start seeing the defense get a little gassed. We'll have to see how they progress. I'm curious if it becomes a trend. I hope it doesn't. You hate to think that the next 16 games are going to be, great pass rush, flashy secondary where they do get some turnovers, but you can't stop the run. That's kind of what bit the Niners in the ass last season. They gave up like 150 yards per game in the playoffs. It's not a recipe for success. Like, you don't want to see that out of the defense. So I am really curious how that gets remedied, or if it is just an outlier because it's the Lions. So that's a key there. My third one, it's the red zone offense. I'm not as down on it, to be honest, because of the matchup. They finished 2 out of 5 in the red zone. Typically, obviously, this is a good offense, but whether it's a forced throw or Stafford just missed seeing the safety right before halftime through the interception, it kind of kills you because you at least get 3 points there. You had another 4th down attempt that failed because this defense is good. Again, you got to keep in mind that this Lions defense, they may finish top 5 in a lot of categories, especially conversions stopped and points allowed. So keep that in mind. Despite the bad outcome, I think that this isn't the same as previous years. I've already read online a bunch of takes from people bashing McVay for being so poor in the red zone. I don't really know what magic play you expect him to pull out of his ass, though, when you're playing with like a 4th string offensive line. You're missing one of your best red zone weapons in Puka Nacua because he adds so much variety. The defense doesn't have to respect your play calling because you're playing with so many deficiencies. You're just hoping, all right, can I get Cooper Kupp open? That was the red zone offense. Can I get Cooper Kupp open? And it's not going to happen 100% of the time. I think they're going to clean it up. They're going to be fine. That dynamic between Stafford and McVay, it's too good to for that to be a constant. But to epitomize this key point and the loss in general, they storm back. They make a great comeback. They actually score a touchdown with Jordan Whittington on a fly sweep, and then left tackle Akuri just unnecessary face mask on Aiden Hutchinson. We're already halfway into the end zone. Face mask, bring it back, and that's kind of epitomizes how a game ended. Just little things like that. Like, if that doesn't happen, if the Kobe Durant drop doesn't happen, this is a different game. Like, sometimes it's down to literally just one play. All the other plays are subsequent, but they don't happen if this thing happens, that kind of thinking. But all in all, great game. Started very Matthew Stafford fashion. Comeback, near win. I know Detroit's seen a lot of that. We've seen a lot of it here in LA already. I expect them to kind of obviously clean up a lot of things. I got a lot of faith in his front office. They're going to be fine. McVay will have to game plan around who he's got available health-wise. And, Thursday we'll break down a recap as they get ready for the Arizona Cardinals. Little sustenance here. Yes, make sure you're drinking your water. Hate having to remind my girlfriend to drink water. Hey, babe, drink water. Looking at you. Drink your damn water. All right, now that we got our water break, let's jump into Raiders Chargers. We got a doubleheader here. We covered both these teams already, so I'll do my best to go rapid fire so this doesn't drag out to a half-hour segment. I'm going to focus on the Raiders side first, since I know a lot of fans are a little pissed off. Box score doesn't look that great. I've got some great things to say, though, honestly. So the good. Let's go through the good for the Raiders. Number one, Minshew, kind of overall. On third down, he was 8 for 10, 72 yards. Threw a pick, but that one was hard to put on him. Defensive lineman gets his hands up. It's a great play for the defense. It's a standard check down. If you watched it, and Madison probably picks up the first down and you're driving for what it's worth, although you're down, I think 12 points right there, it's a little bit less than 2 minutes. If you score there, you're an onside kick away from this is now a game. But that right there kind of clinched it for them. As Minshew and Getsy game plan for next week, I'd like to see if they can build around what they did on third downs. Because like I said, they were 8 for 10, 72 yards. At like late in the third quarter, he was like 5 for 6, or like 6 for 8, with like 5 first downs. Like it was pretty efficient against this defense that was flying around. And another thing that he does well is actually point number 2 for me. 2nd and 10. The Minshew magic that is you get from him and not Aiden O'Connell. I know some people are still kind of torn on that. But let's look at this play here. I'll show you my point. Genuinely like this a lot. This is what you're going to get a lot of from Minshew. Step back, nothing open. Step up, downfield, bang. So for those of you just listening, it's a 2nd and 10, down by 9 to start the fourth quarter. This is what you're hoping to get out of Minshew a lot of the time. He senses the pressure. He steps up in the pocket. Eyes are staying upfield, though, and he's able to connect with Jacoby Myers for a 33-yard gain. The only point of emphasis is he's got a comeback route to Turner on the left side here, but that's a hard throw. He senses good pressure, finds his exit, and he extends the play. Like that's a huge play. Like imagine if you're getting 2 or 3 of those a game. Those can be really backbreaking for the defense. So he's doing that in week 1 in a minimal effort. I think you're going to be just fine. You get some big plays here. He didn't make an incorrect choice on this play. Obviously there's room for improvement, but this is still a positive play that you're going to get a lot from Minshew, and I think this is what you want. I think he was just kind of hampered by the lack of run game that was happening, and we'll talk about that in a minute. Third point, Devontae Adams is still one of the best wide receivers. He caught 5 of 6 targets, 59 yards. He's going to get open no matter what. He's able to flash some good route concepts. Getsy schemed up for him. Even despite having 0 run game. I mean, that one's pretty straightforward. Devontae Adams is really, really good. My last good point for the Raiders, the defense. Crosby's still great. He was in a great battle with Joe Alt, that right tackle impressed. That's a really good rookie. He impressed. He held Crosby in check, but Crosby still got a sack, still forced a lot of pressures. Was great in the run game as well on his end. Like that's going to be a defensive player of the year candidate. Wilkins is as advertised, even though I saw him at one point drop into zone coverage. He was like 8 yards down the field, which is like, I don't know if you want him in coverage, but whatever. The defense was a bright spot. They only allowed 83 yards of offense in the first half. They were flying around. I audibly said in that first quarter, like, this defense plays like a bunch of assholes. And overall, the defense was like just a bright spot. They only allowed 83 yards on offense in the first half. The Chargers were 4 of 15 on third down. Like, it was horrible. Like, they flew around. Like, they hit. It reminded me kind of the Niners defense watching Monday night. A lot of hats on the ball. They flew around. Like, they played with attitude. Like, they played like a bunch of assholes. And that's what you want. Like, that was kind of what's missing. If you're going to propel this team to a bunch of victories, is that attitude. If they can consistently keep that week after week, I think the offense will figure it out eventually. But that's definitely something to lay their hat on. Like I can see this being like a top 10 defense throughout the course of the entire season. So got some good Raiders fans, not all bad. I know you only scored not a lot of points. You guys left some points on the table, missed a few plays here or there. Overall good. Like I said, defense was great. I think Minshew's going to clean some stuff up, but he wasn't terrible. Like, really wasn't terrible. Let's look at some of the bad things that I did point out. These are more point of emphasis. When I say bad, it's like point of emphasis. Like, I think they should just do better. Like, just don't be as bad at these. Number one, preseason, I said this has got to be a point of emphasis for them if they're going to be successful. 71 rushing yards ain't going to cut it. For this team to be successful, like, they need to be averaging 115 plus yards a game. There was a few drives where the running game would have a little success. Those drives, like the play action, would work better. The protection was a little bit better. Minshew was able to hit those deeper crossing routes to Adams and Myers, and they even got Bowers involved a little bit. And that's going to be the keys to success. Like, if they have a run game, Minshew's going to have better options. they're going to win more games. I think it's an easy, direct correlation there, recipe for success for them. Yeah, honestly, all three of my points here kind of tie into the run game. Point 2, play action. They only call play action on 12.5% of their plays. So 1 for every 8 plays was play action. League average was about 20% in 1 and 5. I would love to see this go up for Vegas. Again, you need the run game to be at least a little bit more efficient, because obviously this is directly correlated to the run game. You got to ban it often because of the lack of success there. I know they ran it over 20 times, but it's just not getting anywhere. You're not calling any play actions enough to make things look the same to give the defense issues. You're allowing them too many opportunities just to tee off on what the play type is. But add some variation in there somehow, whether it's just a comfortability thing, letting things mesh for Minshew and the rest of the team. I would love to see this number go up. Like if they can get 1 out of 5 plays, like closer to that of play action, I think they'll be more successful moving forward. Number 3, I've seen Antonio Pierce is getting kind of critiqued for this one, that they didn't gamble on 4th down in a key spot at the end of the game because of their lack of success in the run game. He ended up punting when they're down in the second half. He's catching a lot of flack for it, but if you look at the fact they have 0 run game, Zamir White got stuffed in the background a number of times. They got stopped on 4th down earlier in the game. From the outside, there's 0 logic to going forward in that situation when you're just hoping that all of a sudden your offensive line is going to generate more push. That's less likely than your defense that's playing well, forcing another stop and giving you another opportunity and building momentum, like they've already had multiple times in the game. It's now on the Chargers that just, stuck with the run game and they saw more success because your defense is tired. That's the gamble. I think that was the right choice. Like, if you're 0 for 1 and you're not getting any push on the offensive line, why go for it? Because now if you don't get it, you're giving them better field possession, and now everybody's killing you for you're taking stupid risks. Like it's a lose-lose there for Antonio Pierce, regardless, because they lost. If they win, then it's the right decision. That's just basically what it comes down to. But again, we're talking about the run game. The run game is the domino that fell that caused all this. It gave him lack of confidence to go for it on a 4th down, less gambles, less play action, less variation. Ultimately, that's what caused them to lose the game. So I would love to see what they do going forward. I liked what I saw out of Madison in regards to the run in the pass game, him as a check down option. Zamir White, I think he'll be fine. He had that fumble early, but he kept going. They went back to him. The coaches showed confidence that, hey, we're not going to go away from you, at least not yet. I loved seeing that. And I saw him with two hands on the ball when he would hit the line. Didn't want to let that happen again. But yeah, my bad for the Raiders is going to focus solely on that run game. I'm not really worried about Minshew. You kind of know what you get out of him. Set up the run a little bit more, and you're going to see better success from the offense moving forward. Let's jump into the Chargers end of things here. So, Chargers, you're 1-0. Congratulations. The Harbaugh era begins with a win. You're 1-0. That's the whole tweet. Harbaugh. You got a good win against a good defense that held you under 150 yards passing, and you still won. I don't care what anybody says. That's still positive. If you can win despite bad things happening to you, winning is winning. That's embedded in your DNA at this point. If you could figure it out how to win. That might happen a lot this season. Just kind of depends on what's happening with the receiving core, if they're able to get separation. But a win is a win. Point 2, Joe Alt is as advertised. He went toe-to-toe with Max Crosby 11 times in one-on-one opportunities with that All-Pro. He gave up 0 pressures and 0 sacks to Max Crosby. He gave up 3 total pressures and 28 pass blocking opportunities, which is pretty damn good for a rookie against a very talented defensive line. Again, that defense is going to be very good. Being able to protect Herbert like that, I think as they start meshing better on the offensive side, that's going to be a key block of the whole puzzle for their offense. That was really cool to see. I personally always hate seeing first round linemen taken and then just get completely obliterated in the NFL because maybe they're just not up to speed yet. Really exciting to see. We'll love to see how he progresses and takes his game even further and further. And then the defense, man. This is where I struggle as a reactor content creator for football. Sometimes I don't know if it's a combination of both or one or the other. If it's, hey, the O-line was playing great, or that team's D-line wasn't playing great. Because of the names on that defensive line, I'm gonna assume they were playing better, or it could be the Raiders' O-line just isn't that good. I don't know. We'll see. What I'm talking about is the third positive for the Chargers. They only allowed 3.2 yards per carry, essentially negating the Raiders' rush attack, ineffective completely. That set the dominoes of they're not doing play action. It's just straight passes. You're limited them to 10 points. So they also generated 4 sacks. Khalil Mack looked rejuvenated. I know he had a bunch of sacks against the Raiders last year. He's back at it again. He stood out the most to me. I know Joey Bosa played well as well, but Khalil Mack just stood out. Obviously, he had that tip. I think he recovered a fumble as well. He was just constantly collapsing in a pocket. That dude's a nightmare. Fucking Mack truck. I also think, randomly, my last note, I am a Quentin Johnston truther. I think he looked really good. His first pass catch attempt was a deep ball, almost mossed a guy. He got his hands on it. Just seeing him be aggressive and actually get his hands on it, that was nice to see. His only bad play was critical third down, runs a deep out. I know the commentator said it was like bad timing. It looked fine to me. Herbert put it in the right place. He can tiptoe on the sideline. He got both his hands on it. Ends up dropping it. He did have a handful of catches, though. He looked good underneath. He looked really confident and intentional in his movements, which is what I wanted to see. He struggled, I think, a little bit with separation last year, as well as catching. I mentioned this preseason was pretty good, but his other targets underneath, he got some yards after the catch. Hands looked just fine to me, except for that one ball. But honestly, if he can continue his progression, that's a huge plus. That's going to be a huge benefit because honestly, I think that may have impacted their pass yards a little bit as well. But yeah, all in all, got some really good things to build on for the Chargers moving forward. All right, the scaries for the Chargers. That drop that I just mentioned, that's a backbreaker for not just Johnson, but for the Chargers because you can put a game away earlier. It's a third down. Like I said, it's a deep out thrown, like out of the reach of the defender as well. It's a great throw from Herbert, and it hits him in his hands and drops it, and that's a bad look. And it's harsh when you consider the third down rate in general, right? So 0.2 leading into the fact that they were 4 of 15 on third downs, and they only had like 80-something yards at halftime. Because they got the win, we can just maybe assume that this is just part of the process of getting, rust out, getting the heebie-jeebies out from just not knowing the new system, everyone settling in because the second half was a lot better. But it is a little concerning. So we'll see if this is a trend. Man, less than 30% on, or almost 25% on third down. That's not a recipe for success. Raiders defense could be that good. But also Herbert was pressured on 42% of his dropbacks. That's a lot, man. That's a lot. Even though Alt played pretty good in his debut, Slater played pretty good as well. Gave up 3 pressures. Raiders defense blitzed a lot. I will say that. So that with an aggressive, talented line, it could be just a tough matchup. There's a chance that we're looking at the end of the year, we're looking at these two units as being top, like Raiders top 10 defensive line unit, Chargers top 10 offensive line unit because they got the run game going early and often as well. Oh, how did I not mention? Yeah. Backtrack. J.K. Dobbins. Like, how good is it to see him doing well? I can't believe I just completely forgot about that. He had 150 yards, a touchdown. He had too long. I was, as a fantasy owner of J.K. Dobbins, I was a little pissed because he had 2 breakaways, and then he gets caught within the 20 of both of those. And I'm just like, in the back of my head, I'm like, oh man, did he lose some top end speed, or did he just never have that before? Like I didn't watch him enough in Baltimore. But it's good to see him back and healthy. He made a lot of look really shifty in the box. That was really cool to see. Happy for J.K. Dobbins. But back to the negative stuff. My last point for the Chargers is a little bit more lengthy. They didn't capitalize enough on the successful run game. And I know that sounds kind of stupid because they had so many rush yards, but when you look at the lack of passing success that they had all game, ultimately, the run game helped. I would like to see them scheme around that successful run game a little bit earlier, a little bit more often. What am I talking about? So for as many rush yards as you had, they only called play action 10% of the time. That was the 3rd lowest of teams in week 1. If this is the identity, which everyone's assuming it is, with Greg Roman as the OC, with that 3-headed, attack that they're going to use with J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, and Kamani Vidal. I forgot his first name, but Vidal as a 3rd running back. I would assume they'd call play action a little bit more. I'd assume it'd be heavier in that to just keep pressure off of Herbert, keep him up and healthy. Maybe I'm missing something in the context of that game, but if they are going to blitz so often and you are having success, especially in the second half, use more play action concepts available to you. I understand that, like I said, the Raiders are blitzing a lot. Maybe it's a receiver thing, a lack of confidence in them, but Palmer and Cuge need to be better at creating separation earlier. I think play calling needs to be a little bit more well-rounded in that regard too with Greg Roman. So we'll see how they counter a blitz next week. Like I said, I really thought they'd call play action a little bit more. Maybe they just don't have that in their arsenal. I don't know. It'd help if I was a Chargers fan. Maybe I'd pay attention a little bit more. Somebody comment. Let me know. Am I stupid for saying what I'm saying with the play action? But that's just me. Maybe I need to stop looking at stats. All in all, though, this was a typical Harbaugh expected win. A lot of running, tough in the trenches, gutted out a win, just being right place, right time in a lot of plays. Love to see it. Whether it's McVay, whether it's Harbaugh, it looks like football is very fun in LA right now. So good for the Chargers, bolt up. Let's move on to our last game. Hey, run for your life. All right, Los 49ers. Boy, oh boy, my favorite team's rival. Point number 1, surprise, surprise. The Niners look dominant again. So boring. Why don't you guys do something interesting? Not be so good, maybe. Keeping me up on a Monday night, fighting an overnight nap because the game's over by the 8-minute mark in the 4th quarter. No, really, they just look dominant. Outside of some early drives from Rodgers being Rodgers, Garrett Wilson being super talented, Breece Hall finding some checkdowns and a few lanes here and there. The defense dominated. They did play like they're the best defense in the league, even missing Dre Greenlaw and Hufanga in the secondary. Even against the Rodgers-led offense, I don't really care about maybe their line's not the best. I don't really care about this Russ coming back from injury. He's still Aaron Rodgers. They're still very talented. So the fact that they shut down that offense, essentially, I don't really care about yards given up. Shut them down as much as they did. I think a lot of games are going to go that way. You kind of watch the flow of the game that's happening. Kind of what I said about the Raiders. Niners just fly around. That's kind of their identity. Any check downs, short passes were met with a lot of thuds, a lot of big hits. Wide receiver separation besides Wilson and I know Alan Lazard here or there. He's got great chemistry with Aaron Rodgers. He had one pass down the sideline that was just there's only 3 quarterbacks that can make that. Late hands by Alan Lazard. It's just a go route. Perfect coverage, but the deep I think it was Lenore. DB's just running side by side with Lazard, staring at the receiver. Perfect coverage. Rodgers puts the ball just in front of the DB, and Lazard, just with that repetition with him, late hands it, so that way the DB has no chance to react. Like, that was Rodgers is going to do that a lot. He did it on the blown offsides touchdown that he does so often. You're going to get those. Apart from that, though, the defense never really faltered. Like, it seemed like they were just going to win this game no matter what. Stamped with only giving up 68 yards. That's the second lowest total in week 1. The only team that gave up less was the Saints in their blowout against the Panthers. So, really impressive. Point 2, the offensive line impressed. My preseason kind of preview for the Niners, I said that if they're going to win a Super Bowl, their offensive line honestly only has to be average. They were below average in a lot of categories, like in pressures given up on that right side of the line. Rookie right guard Dominic Puny. I hope I'm saying that right. He looked great in both the run and the pass. He gave up, I believe, 0 pressures. I got to double check that. They averaged 5.5 yards carrying behind him directly. I got to double. Oh man, it did feel like though they had a lot more success running north and south versus east and west. Because every time I looked up, running east and west, whether it was with Debo or whether it was with Jordan Mason, who played phenomenally, like maybe he's the best running back on this squad, and they don't even need CMC. You guys should just cut him. It seemed like they were just punishing and a lot stronger and bullying the Jets front seven versus east and west. Like, it's still a very fast defense. Like, they're still aggressive. Maybe a little bit more finesse than power, honestly. So just a note on that one. And then even with 3 sacks, so I will say this, like, they gave up 3 sacks technically, but if you break each one of them down, like, honestly, they're fine. 1 sack was a scramble right. It was a covered sack essentially at a play action. Purdy, there was a little bit of pressure. Purdy scrambles right. Like, I thought he got back to the line. It should be like a half-yard gain. He just kind of ate that because he didn't want to force a pass downfield to Debo. Another sack was on Debo on what was an attempted reverse double pass back to Purdy. Debo ends up scrambling around. Instead of a loss of 13, though, it's only like a loss of 3 because it's Debo. So that was one. And then the only real sack on Purdy, there is, God, what was it down there? I think there's like 5 minutes left. It was a sack eaten by Purdy. About 5 minutes left. They're already up by 16 or so. He rolls left, and rather than force a ball to one of his 2 options where, like, it's covered pretty well, and rather than throw it out of bounds and complete, which normally you would, he looks to just dive forward and take the sack. Why? Well, because you want to just eat the clock out. By doing that, you're now ticking off at least another 30 seconds away from the Jets to just erase any Rodgers miracles happening at the end of the game. So if that's what you're giving up, okay. Besides that, no straight up sacks were given. Purdy even like made some ridiculous throw under pressure from the right side at one point. Run game was phenomenal. Jordan Mason's going to get all the credit, but that O-line was moving mountains the entire game. My last good point, I made a prediction that Purdy is going to receive MVP votes by year's end. He may not win it. I don't think he'll win it, but he should be deserving of some votes, like legitimately by the end of the year. All game, like, despite them just abusing in the run game, the Jets defense is still a good defense. Still talented. He always takes what's there. Super accurate. He should have had a second TD if not for Ayuk just dropping the ball. Again, the last sack he takes, that situation is just critical for how he helps make winning plays. Oh yeah, I've got the stats. So he's up 16 with 5 minutes left. You're already in field goal range. Why risk it? Why stop the clock? Why risk any throw? You dive forward, a sack, whatever. You chip away another 30 seconds and you go up another 3 points. Like, you essentially end the game right there on a sack, which is great. Like, he always makes the right play. He looked calm against a good New York defense. They suck against the run, but by God, they're fast sideline to sideline, and Purdy just shredded them. Yeah, looked great. bad takeaways from the Niners. This was kind of hard. Like, I literally am having to nitpick. Bad. So this might be a hot take. I think the secondary is a little suspect after that game. I know they're still dealing with an injury or two. And again, I know it's Garrett Wilson and I know it's Aaron Rodgers, but despite them having, that's all they really had on offense. You know, other weeks with other better offenses that are flowing with multiple weapons going. Is that something that's going to be a trend? Will they give up 300, 350 yards a game? Can the pass rush get there to protect that? They were opportunistic and got an interception. I'll just leave it at that. I could 100% just be talking out of my ass here. So, Niners fan, please tell me how you feel about the secondary. I think if there's going to be any weak point, I just think that front seven is just so dominant that it doesn't matter who you put in the secondary, they're going to be good. But, yeah, I guess that's a nitpick. I guess. My other nitpicking, it's like, how do I say anything bad about the offense when they've done well? I would like to see them just run play action a little bit more. Below average on play action usage, especially with the run game doing so well. Normally they do at a little bit higher clip. They're still about league average with play action usage as of last year. I don't know, just you have Kittle. If Ayuk was actually out of shape from what a lot of fans are saying that he looked like it, and he's on a snap count watch. The Shanahan offense makes everything look the same already. I was kind of confused they weren't using play action a little bit more often, and utilizing Kittle and Juszczyk in that regard. Again, I am nitpicking because obviously team played well, but I just imagine based on the situation that they would use a little bit more. I'd be curious to see again if this is a trend or if it literally just was the flow of the game and go into what was working. Their style though, will probably look cleaner operationally as the weeks go on, and that's kind of my final note as Ayuk comes back to form. I don't have anything else. I don't like Shanahan's hair. I don't know what else to say bad. I think he needs a haircut. I'm not a fan of the half mullet thing. Shout out to Nick Sorensen. His debut as defensive coordinator was great. Like, those guys didn't miss a beat. Fred Warner looked like the best linebacker in football. That defensive line was just a nightmare. I don't know what Nick Bosa has done to the NFL. I don't know if he flirted with someone's girlfriend, if pissed someone off in Goodell's family. That guy gets held so often. It's so funny. There's a play where he's just basically being held backwards like he's on the Titanic and not a single call. It's holding. I don't know. Not sure what that guy did, but it's hard for me to nitpick a lot with this team when the game was over with 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter. I was fighting sleep, staying up, taking notes. So, yeah, congrats to Niners on another dominant win. That is going to wrap up our review from week one. We got week one of the books. We're fucking done. I will see you guys in 2 days' time from this publishing. Thursday mornings, we will be doing our preview. It'll be a shorter episode, just some things I'm thinking about as the games, what game's coming up for each team. I'm not a true analyst. I'm doing my best to just give you some things to watch for, hey, these are what I'm looking at. Again, if you would rather just read this stuff, go to the website, firstandtuna.com. If you're enjoying this and you want to stay with me on this ride because you love me as much as I love you, subscribe, like. We're here. That's it. Love you guys. Keep stacking.